Good morning. I'm a bit stalling because we are waiting for another panelist who is about to join us online from an airport. This is what digital and electronic connections actually enabled us to have all people in from different locations in one panel. But electronic commerce, huh? I remember when I started working in 2019 for CEFTA, it was really a buzzword, like it was everywhere. But whenever we dive into the conversations with people, like on a very personal level, I think that many were skeptical about how quick and how transformative it will impact our lives. And then COVID happened. And after COVID, I think very few people actually remained skeptical. And now the question moved from if into when and how. So one thing is certain, that the digital world actually connects people regardless of geographies. So now we have another panelist who is not with us, and we don't know actually where physically she is. But in order to tap into this potential, like from a business perspective, from economic perspective, we need to facilitate the work in this real physical world. This is why digitalization has been one of the key priorities of the governments across the world, and this is why from the very beginning this was also one of the CEFTA's priorities. In 2020, we have adopted a roadmap, a policy document where we set our priorities and we said to the world what we're going to do. And actually today we use the opportunity to take stock of results of what we actually managed to do in these 3 years, and also have a sneak peek into the future, into the priorities that will lead us ahead. So without further ado, let me start with a panel, with a wink from a panelist here on my screen. I see everybody here on board. So my first panelist is a superwoman. She is the president of eCommerce Association in North Macedonia, an assistant professor at University in Skopje, and international business development manager at the Ananas eCommerce. Recently, she was appointed a chair of the Balkan eCommerce Alliance. Nina Angelovska has led a team that did the first study on geo-blocking practices for the CEFTA Secretariat. And therefore, there is no better person to share with us business perspective on electronic commerce. So, Nina, tell us, do business need regional digital market?
Thank you very much for having me online. Thank you, Zdravko. I would like to return the kind words and say that there is no better person to moderate this panel except you. So I wish, of course, I could join in person in Podgorica. However, I'm at the airport lounges, and I'm glad to have the pleasure of taking part in this discussion. E-commerce is, I would say, very close to my heart. I have been breeding the e-commerce market for more than 15 years now, initially starting with the Macedonian and lately more focused on the region. So to give and start with a very short answer to your question and then elaborate a bit more, I think the need for a regional digital market has already become a necessity, an imperative, let's say, to business growth and to growth and development of the whole region. So each of the Western Balkan markets are very small and fragmented markets on their own. And to unlock the potential of e-commerce, we need to be able basically to see these Western Balkans or CEFTA plus Moldova as one integrated market. But before that can happen, there are many obstacles that we need to address and remove, of course. You mentioned the CEFTA geo-blocking analysis that we did. And I think the study is actually a great starting point to see where we stand, to map the obstacles, and then to design actions and policies on how to remove these obstacles. So just briefly to share with the audience in the room, we did, although we had many presentations on the CEFTA geo-blocking study, I think it's good just to mention the, let's say, key findings, which are basis to see where we stand. So we did mystery shopping observation to a selected sample of 160 shops from all 7 CEFTA markets and interviewed 44 managers or CEOs from these e-shops. And the key finding is that almost 90, or in particular 89% of e-shops that sell goods refuse to sell to other markets. So basically, they do have geo-blocking practices in place. They don't sell to other markets except the local domestic market. The main challenges that were pointed out are the high customs fees and complex procedures, the high delivery costs, and the lack of unified rules and standardization as top three among the many others challenges out there. So on a positive note, because we always want to look on a bit optimistic note, I would say, we asked these e-shops, what if obstacles were to be removed? Are you willing to invest and to expand your business into other markets? And that they were all super positive and happy to expand and put investment and work into enabling cross-border sales. So some of the e-shops companies that are present in other markets actually are duplicating their efforts in each market if they want to be present in more markets. Therefore, they're not able to utilize the benefits of e-commerce as such because the situation as is now doesn't allow for the businesses to unlock basically the potential. So do businesses need a regional digital market? Yes, urgently. And the role of governments is to remove these obstacles, to make the life easier of these superheroes in e-commerce to grow and flourish. I say superheroes because e-commerce is super complex to develop and manage on its own, and let alone in these circumstances in the Western Balkans with all these obstacles, different languages, different rules, different VAT stops, in many cases double taxation, and they can see basically the forest for the trees because of all these things. You also mentioned the e-commerce alliance in the beginning, and I want to thank you for that. So it's a very fresh, newly formed e-commerce alliance, which is called the Balkan e-commerce alliance, that was founded by the e-commerce associations from North Macedonia, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Albania, with the support of GIZ. And the alliance will focus basically on pushing, in this regard, what we are discussing for change and accelerating this progress. I'm grateful to all the colleagues for putting trust in me to lead the work as chair in the very beginning, jointly with my team at the Macedonian E-commerce Association, but in collaboration with, of course, all the associations from the region. So I think that I would like to end on a note that we need to make cross-border e-commerce a reality. We need to put our words into action. Yes, it's not easy. It requires hard work and it requires political will. But if there is a will, there is a way, of course, as they say. And at the end of the day, this is the key for the region to prosper and grow. The benefits are there waiting for us. The hard work needs to start happening already. Maybe you can feel my sense of impatience if we put it in polite words, in politically correct words. But as I mentioned, I'm very passionate about e-commerce, and you and Ms. Zdravko have been discussing many times that this slow movement is a bit frustrating in many aspects and regards. So that's why I'm very happy to participate in this discussion. And I think that CEFTA days and all these conferences are very important for everyone to understand where we stand and what we need to do in order to grow and unlock the potential.
Thank you very much, Nina. I hope that at least after the first line of questions, you will be more positive, at least to see how many hard workers actually we have on this job. Marcela Ponošeci is my second panelist, and she's a true e-commerce expert who recently occupied a position of a head of the legal department in Electronic and Postal Communications Authority in Kosovo, but used to work in the Ministry of Economy as well in a similar position. She has experience in multiple CEFTA expert groups dealing with different aspects of digital trade. Marcela, last month, actually, I was in Skopje on Nina's invitation in an e-commerce conference, where it was presented that businesses and consumers lag in the Balkans, lag behind their EU peers when it comes to buying and selling online. And in particular, when it comes to buying and selling outside its local market. Interestingly, that does not apply to using WhatsApp and Facebook. So there we are quite European. So can you please tell me what has been done in the context of CEFTA to address all the obstacles for businesses and consumers?
Thank you, Zdravko, for inviting me for the second time. I was last year in your panel, as you were with the moderator, and it's my pleasure to be here again. From that time, it has been some changes in this regard, but as you mentioned, the roadmap, the CEFTA e-commerce roadmap that was adopted some 3 years ago, yeah. Since then, we have agreed to transpose several legislation into the CEFTA framework with multiple benefits for citizens as well as businesses in the region. So I will try maybe with some examples to explain or elaborate. For example, based on consumers, today the Balkan consumers are at the bottom of the European ranking when it comes to buying online. And one challenge that, and one reason for all of this is that will I get what I ordered, and what if I'm not satisfied with this order? So our CEFTA expert group that we have been several meetings and so on, we have been in online discussions first and then in live discussions, agreed that EU consumer protection rules shall apply same across the region. So a good example of such rule is the right to withdraw from that contract. And if you are not satisfied with the goods, you can return it back. Across the CEFTA, as I am known, a 2 weeks period is guaranteed. So it is based on these EU directives, but this is just the beginning. I mean, in our meetings in October, we agreed to extend this cooperation to more areas, in particular in digital contracts, since the consumers are concluded when buying goods and services online. So, moreover, we also discussed strengthening cooperation between consumer protection authorities. For example, in Kosovo, we have an authority that is dealing with consumer protection in Ministry of Trade for better protection of the consumers when buying across borders. In the other hand, from business perspective, also businesses, we must admit, they may suffer from several challenges. For example, when it comes to licensing. This is why we have decided to apply this common regional market in order for not to have seven, for example, licenses, but only single one. That's in Kosovo is working on this towards aligning directive Digital Service Act. We are planning to prepare with the concept documents in order for the government to apply the objectives of the governmental digital agenda that has been adopted recently, 2030. And in terms of legislation, which is my part and my field, the law on consumer protection is being amended. It's in the process of being amended, but not still approved. And we are trying to include these two directives, 2019, into this law, or maybe it will change in the road, maybe in separate law. I don't know. Let's see what will. But in this case, we are working hard on this process in order for these obstacles to be aligned with the EU acquis. And as I said, Kosovo is very active in preparing legislation and aligning with the EU. And as concerning the e-commerce, we have transposed the Directive 2000 for e-commerce in our law. The law still is in force and it is going well, only maybe there are some challenges in terms of statistics and the chamber of e-commerce, which we need to tackle on. So let's see in the upcoming years how we are going to proceed.
I think it's very encouraging to see that at this point of time, at least, we have some certain level of harmonization across the region, and that the company, when it thinks about it, and a person as a consumer as well, and thinks about it actually participating in the digital market, it can have this on the paper or on the back in the brains that the laws, rules are across the region are similar or the same. Now, from regulative perspective, we turn actually to what was named by our e-commerce roadmap as the issue of transactions. And they said there are two kinds of transactions. One of them is the transactions related to packages, to parcels actually. When you do online order, unless it's an electronic service, you actually generate a product which needs to travel from one place to another. And for this, we have two panelists actually who will talk about it. The first one is Mr. Gazmir Mani, the Director of the Market and Regulatory Measures in the Electronic and Postal Communications Authority in Albania. He is also a member of CEFTA Parcel Delivery Expert Group, which is in charge of regional measures which are regional postal measures directed to the parcel delivery. Gazmir, what can you share with us about 2023 results and 2024 plans when it comes to making it easier for these packages to travel easier and cheaper?
First of all, thank you, Zdravko, for having me here. Thank you, everybody. We have started our journey together since 3 years ago. I fully support you when you said at the beginning that there were some skeptics that this is not going to work properly. But now, when we speak today, I believe that we have done a very good job altogether working to this process. And all parties have been engaged and taken advantage of these meetings and sharing knowledge with each other. Regarding what Albania has done related to the legislation of the transposition of EU legislation into our national legislations, we are proud that we have done a very good job on this. We have transposed the directive for parcel delivery of cross-border parcel delivery services, Directive 2080/644 of EU. We have started implementing it since 2021. And we have, this year we have published in our website the third grouping of postal operators who offer cross-border services based on the classification of these guidelines who have transported the EU regulation. We have to mention here that the ministry has transposed or has adopted it in our national legislation, the directive provisions. And altogether with the ministry, we have supported the ministry and we are implementing it. We have produced, as I mentioned, 3 reports on operators who fall under these classifications. We have applied the same rules as they are being applied in EU countries. So the companies, some of the rules as the companies who have 50 plus employees on their companies, or companies who operate in different states. The ministry also has issued the methodology of assessing the tariffs for these operators who fall under these criteria. We are obliged in the same periodicity of publishing the operators and the tariffs these operators apply in cross-border, when it comes to cross-border parcel delivery. After that, we have to assess if these tariffs are justified or they are not high, inappropriately high to compare to the rest. You know, we have had a lot of discussions and it has been difficult, especially at the beginning for us, because being the only one party in the region who have started doing this exercise, we have had difficulties in comparing to the other parties before going to compare with EU counterparties in the EU level, let's say, like this. But again, we have, as I said, we have learned by doing things, and we have improved. A lot of practices has helped us to improve on this. And the share of experience from the EU regulators regarding the parcel delivery services on cross-border has helped us. We have held meetings in Slovenia, in Akos, in Thessaloniki, in Greece, and we see that time by time we improve our data collection, but also on our data comparison with the region. So I believe that we are on the right way. We have also other parties in CEFTA which are implementing and are transposing the legislation of EU regulations. So we hope that in the coming future, especially during 2024, we will have more place where to compare with each other, first to start, and then to be able to join with the future steps to join in the EU market or in the EU database to compare with them in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. But I think it's great actually that we are implementing this system in all Western Balkans, basically in which we can track the prices of the cross-border parcel delivery and then assess it to see if they are inappropriately high. I think this is a very good news for everybody for all the businesses and the people who are actually paying the price for this price delivery. On the other side of the parcel delivery story are not just the postal regulators, but also the customs regulators, because when they go from one market to another, they have to do the customs clearance. This is why we have today Ms. Tatjana Vujsic, the acting Deputy Director of the Revenue and Customs Administration of Montenegro. Customs, as we noticed, play a critical role. They have a tricky job to ensure that on one side, this movement of packages is secure, but also efficient and seamless, at least from the consumer perspective. So, Tatjana, we know that customs administrations are key members of the CEFTA family and that e-commerce is a new topic on your plates. Can you tell us something about your results and plans specifically related to this topic?
Hvala, Zdravko. Drago mi je što sam ovdje danas da predstavim šta Carinska služba Crne Gore radi na unapređenju svojih procedura kako bi bila u toku sa savremenim trendovima. E-trgovina je i u Crnoj Gori u značajnoj ekspanziji, iako je Crna Gora sa globalnog aspekta malo tržište za e-trgovinu. Međutim, Carinska služba se mora konstantno prilagođavati tim novim tokovima. Krenula bi prvo od novih carinskih propisa, jer sve počinje odatle. Carinski propisi moraju prvo da regulišu ove oblasti kako bi se mogli primjenjivati u praksi. Od februara i marta ove godine u primjeni su novi carinski zakon i nova uredba koja bliže određuje primjenu normi carinskog zakona i novi carinski propisi su u potpunosti usklađeni sa propisima carinskim Evropske unije, naravno u meri u kojoj to može biti obzirom da Crna Gora nije država članica Evropske unije. Ovi novi carinski propisi daju osnov za modernizaciju carinske službe, a prvenstveno za izradu nove tehnologije informatičke kako bismo sa novim sistemima mogli da pratimo sve nove procedure i kako bi elektronskim praćenjem procedura mogli da doprinesemo da privreda na brži i ekonomičniji način dođe do svoje robe, odnosno da sprovede sve carinske postupke. U tom cilju smo 7. novembra ove godine pustili u primjenu novi carinsko-informacioni sistem. Prethodni sistem smo koristili više od 20 godina i konstantno smo ga unapređivali, međutim, zbog zastarele tehnologije nismo mogli planirati dalje unapređenja i sa novim sistemom smo to omogućili. U toku je nadogradnja tog novog sistema u okviru IPA projekta koji će se završiti početkom 2025. godine, a omogućit će potpuno bespapirno poslovanje od strane carinske službe, odnosno bespapirno sprovođenje carinskih postupaka isključivo elektronskim putem, što će privrednoj zajednici itekako olakšati i smanjiti troškove prilikom sprovođenja carinskih procedura koje su propisane. U međuvremenu radimo i na drugim projektima, najviše posvećujemo pažnju upravo digitalizaciji postupaka, jer samo na taj način možemo stvarno izvršiti olakšanje privrednoj zajednici. Sistem carinskih odluka je projekat koji se također realizuje iz IPA projekta i on je pri kraju. Planiramo sledeće godine da ga pustimo u primjenu, a to znači da će privrednici koji žele da svoju robu stave u neki od carinskih postupaka, kao što je carinsko skladištenje, privremeni uvoz, ponovni izvoz, a za koji im je potrebno neko prethodno odobrenje od carinskog organa, to moći da zahtevaju isključivo elektronskim putem. Ti zahtevi će se elektronskim putem obrađivati i elektronski pratiti, što će im značajno ubrzati dobijanje tih odobrenja. U međuvremenu smo radili i na drugim projektima. Omogućili smo da ekspresne pošiljke mogu da se najave pre prispeća u Crnu Goru. Sa GIZ-om smo, uz podršku GIZ-a, implementirali smo projekat koji je značajno pomogao da brza pošta može na najbrži i jednostavniji način da isporuči poštu krajnjem primaocu. Razvili smo sistem prethodne najave tih pošiljki, tako da carinski organ može da sprovede sve svoje kontrole i da sprovede analizu rizika pre nego što brza pošta stigne u Crnu Goru, tako da smo pre realizacije projekta imali jedan procenat od oko 26% puštanja brzih pošti u prvih sat vremena nakon prispeća robe, što je za brzu poštu jako nizak procenat. Naš je plan bio da se taj procenat poveća na 65% do kraja projekta, međutim sad imamo preko 85% pošiljki koje se mogu pustiti u prvih sat vremena nakon prispeća u Crnu Goru. Zbog uspešnog ovog projekta koje smo realizovali, sa GIZ-om smo nastavili saradnju, tako da sada realizujemo projekat sličan i za poštanske pošiljke i za pomorski saobraćaj. Sa Poštom Crne Gore smo potpisali pre 2 meseca i sporazum o saradnji, tako da očekujemo da će se ubrzati, da kažem, dostava pošiljki do primaoca i one koje se dostavljaju putem redovne pošte. Na isti način ćemo imati prethodnu najavu pošiljki kroz elektronski sistem koji će biti takođe povezan sa carinskim informacionim sistemom, tako da će ti podaci tih pošiljki moći da se unapred obrađuju i da se opredeljuje koje će pošiljke biti odabrane za kontrolu, a koje će moći odmah da se puste do krajnjeg primaoca. Tako da sa raznih strana i sa raznim projektima konstantno unapređujemo svoj proces rada i trudimo se da idemo u korak sa vremenom i da privredi omogućimo da carinske postupke sprovode na što brži i jednostavniji način i sa što manje troškova.
Thank you very much, Tatina. I think it's worth underlining and repeating again that you actually managed to achieve that 4 out of 5 basically parcels by Post Express are cleared even before, in 1 hour after arrival. I mean, of course, this is possible only if you have a system which allows this electronic exchange of documents and data. This is a bit intro for the next panel. But this one we turn to other topic under the heading of transactional costs for us. One is related to packaging, and the other one, I think also Nina mentioned it, and it was definitely mentioned in the geo-blocking study, payments. And we see as well, I mean, we don't need to read the study, we talk to people and we see that many people still prefer kind of cash instead of payments. Because there is an issue of trust, but also there's an issue of access to digital payment instruments. So to talk about this, we invited Mattia Lazzo, a senior economist at the World Bank. His strong suits are actually macroeconomy and financial system, and he works in Brussels office, mostly dealing with the EU member states, which is why he's our key guy in the project on payments, covering Western Balkan future EU members. So CEFTA's e-commerce roadmap, as I said, identified payments as one of the bottlenecks. What can be done to address these bottlenecks? So
Thank you, Zdravko. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, colleagues, for inviting me. You're absolutely right. It all boils down, at least in my humble macroeconomic economic view, to money, right? Something costs, there needs to be some sort of a transaction which can be either too expensive or can be long, right? Because it doesn't matter whether it's a transaction cheap, but if it takes me 7 days to get that money or to pay that money, that's also not business friendly or consumer friendly. The World Bank has partnered with the European Commission back in 2020, I guess, already, when we did an assessment of the financial sector in the Western Balkans, and payments came very, 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 and let me underline very, one more time, on the top of the agenda. It seems to us as was worthwhile cause to investigate this further and to see why are we not performing well, or why are we not performing as well as our friends and families within the European Union. We partnered together with the European Commission, including with the partnership with CEFTA Secretariat, but also RCC, in order to see what can be done under our project and how do we modernize the payment systems in the Western Balkans. Now, this is a horrible topic, let me be quite honest with you, because it's super technical. Because they use very fancy word for a very simple thing, which is basically, how do I transfer my money, right? People understand what is a payment, right? People understand that it's or let me use the economic phrasing, it's a nerve system of the economy. It's everywhere. It's whether I go and buy something from my merchants, for goods or services, whether I pay my bills, right? Whether I get my money from family and friends abroad, whether I want to pay my intermediary goods or raw materials from my suppliers from somewhere. These are all payment transactions, essentially, which should optimally be quick, cheap, and efficient. Unfortunately, in the Western Balkans, none of those three are at the optimal level, but we are looking, well, it's not optimal within the European Union as well, let's be honest, but in the Balkans, it's a little bit, it's still suboptimal compared to what is our threshold or what is our objective, which is to pay as we pay within the European Union. We started to, I would say, very deeply collaborate and assist central banks of the Western Balkans. Why central banks? Because they are the owners of the systems. Now, when I tell you why this is, when I told you 2 minutes ago that this is a horribly complicated topic, it's complicated because it's with the central banks. So it's kind of secluded, right? People don't know, why do we need a payment system directive 2? What is an instant payment system? What is an ACH? What is an RTGS? These are all acronyms that are being used, yet it's not, as I said, this is a simple transactional system that all of us are actually using, but it's in the hands of the central bank to make it seamlessly work. One of the things that we have started our job with the central banks is to basically help them support creation of instant payment systems or fast payment system, as they call it. The words already tell you what it is, but what is important to understand is that introducing the fast payment systems will make your transactions cheaper and faster. Will make your transactions in 24/7, in a second, what you kind of now experience if you send to your friend or colleague or family member within the bank, right? When you send to your wife or a husband or a daughter or a son or a friend, that's the instant adjective that we use. Cheap, it's the same thing, again, same example, we want that systems to be as cheap as you are sending that transfer within your bank, right? So that's the idea of the instant payment systems in the Western Balkans. Now, this is hardware. This is also software, right? This is a system that is somewhere in the basement of the central bank. Well, in some cases, it's not in the basement of the central bank. In some cases, it's and I'm colloquially saying basement, right? Because it could be on the first floor. It's also in the association of banks, right? In North Macedonia, for instance, that's the case. The system is actually hosted in the association of banks. This is something that is not a simple thing. This is not easy thing, because in order to do that, you also need to adjust, which brings me to the regulatory and legislative nature of our assistant. You need to adjust to the EU acquis. You need to adjust to the EU-related acquis on payments. And you need to adjust to what I will mention more because it's a highly relevant issue on the SEPA or a Single European Payment Area rules of engagement and participation. This is critical. This is difficult. This is not easy. I have seen countries that have been struggling with the move towards the compliance with the EU acquis on payment-related issues, that have spent 2 years or more trying to figure out the legislation needs and trying to contextualize the directive passing into the local context. This is also, it's not only on EU acquis, it's not only on the payment-related legislation of the EU acquis, it's on a close to payment-related topics of the EU acquis. For instance, we all know, and we all, for instance, especially for the business community, this is a very particular issue, on the FX transaction laws. This is also a core of the payment system, because at the end of the day, on the cross-border, that one kicks in very strongly. And this is something that we are also working with in particular with the central banks, but also with the ministries of finances within the region, where we are trying to find a way, how do we make that legislation less constrained? Because at the end of the day, the idea is, if you do it cross-border, that means that it's the same as if you do it internally or within your economy. That's something that needs to kick in as well. Beyond and above instant payments, which is basically the fundamentals of how the system works, you also have some what you will hear from the technical experts, which are called very strongly and very strangely words, overlay services, which is nothing else but additionalities, functionalities of the system, like the QR codes, right? So how to pay with the QR codes when I come to the coastline or to the seaside in Montenegro, so that I can pay my bill with the QR code. It can be a QR code, it can be a barcode, it can be whatever you want, but it has to be readable, right? For the bank, for my bank to understand that it needs to transfer the payment. This is also something that we have been strongly working with the CEFTA Secretariat in particular, within the CEFTA parties, within the area, but also to communicate outside, right? From the Western Balkans region to the European Union. I'll mention 2 more things if you allow me. I don't know if I already spent a little too much time. I mentioned 2 things. One of the other issue is that is quite interesting as well, is the fintech agenda, because as you know, not only banks do payments. Not only banks are participating in the financial markets. So we have actually local businesses that are quite active in this area, but they're constrained. They're constrained within the markets of a particular economy, and that's not business friendly, and that's not profitable, right? They need size, they need area, they need more customers in order for their business model to work. What we are trying to support, and this we do together with the RCC, is to figure out whether some sort of a fintech innovation hub, like they have it within the European Central Bank, they also have one in the Scandinavia, where the regulators the regulators and businesses can sit together and figure out the way how do you cross, right? how do you have that from less profitability to profitability, but working under the regulatory system of the economies in the region. Finally, I just want to mention one more thing, which we're trying to do, is this licensing of non-bank payment service providers. And I think this is a great opportunity because it has so many steps in the future that could be quite interesting for the region. Like, what are we trying to? What is the basic that we are trying to do? We're trying to figure out, okay, when an agency for banking or a supervisor or a regulator tries to license a payment institution or a bank, right? What are the steps that I need to take? What are the steps? And usually, you will see, or you probably some of you know in your respective economies, you will see there are like 25 steps that needs to be ticked, right, in order for an institution to be licensed. What we wanted to see, okay, are those 25 steps or so, are there any commonalities within the CEFTA region or within the Western Balkans? And if so, and we know they are because they are all converging towards the EU acquis, so they all have similar steps to make. We wanted to see whether we can agglomerate some and say, okay, if you pass steps 1, 7, 13, and 24 in one economy, why can't we recognize it everywhere? We'll still have other steps to be made in an economy where you are going, but why can't we at the minimum recognize those steps that are common to each other, right? The next step, and that depends on the demand, because remember, we are working in the financial sector world. That one is the worst to give, right? So that's the latest, for instance, when you are joining within the EU, the financial sector, the banking sector, the capital controls are the last one, right? At 2 minutes before midnight, you let it go before you join with the EU. And then the single market functions. But there are things that you can actually do even before the 2 minutes before the midnight. We are trying to figure out whether this can be also done in buckets, because there could be a single bucket of requirements that could be recognized everywhere, and that could actually seamlessly reduce the cost of the existing players in the system, but also the new players to come. Because as you know, let's not go to the marketing of the Western European, well, Northern European and the Western European the big payment system players that in our economies function on the borderline, right, cases, but they'll still function. Why can't we attract them? Why can't we see those big shots coming to the regions and creating them and having them as a player within the Western Balkans region? So I'll stop here because I feel that the other part of the game, and I can come in on that one, is the entire connection of the Western Balkans with the EU, which I think is an important objective that we need to keep an eye on.
Thank you very much, Matthias. So in order to summarize a little bit this first line of questions, we see, and I think I read in one of your studies, that basically companies and people in the Western Balkans pay 6 times more than their peers in the EU. So that's something, so let's say we want to cut down the cost 6 times. We can present it like that. We want to have 4 out of 5 packages cleared in the first hour of the arrival. We want to have same 14 days rules across the region. This is what we're working on in 7 different markets. And we want to have as well in all 7 markets, basically all too high prices lowered down. So Nina, back to you. So I hope that these are the messages you can share with your colleagues in the e-commerce business community. But I'm more curious about if you heard this morning message from the EU Commission about the new growth plan and possibilities of bringing the benefits of connections with the EU single market through regional integration. So the general idea is that all this that we heard here can be as well extended to the EU. But without being too bureaucratic about it, what obstacles would you like to see removed between the region and the EU in the following years through this plan?
Yeah, I would just first, before going into the second topic, like to congratulate all the previous speakers on the efforts done in their respective markets. And I hope that there will be many more best practices or efforts that will induce, let's say, positive change that we very much need in order to remove, not maybe be very modest on some of the obstacles, but all of them, if possible, in a certain period of time. Firstly speaking, in the Western Balkans, and then, of course, connected to this second topic that we are discussing with the EU. I think also the topic that was tackled regarding payment is very relevant, and the progress there is also, let's say, happening pretty slow. What is on a good note, positive, because it was shared about the positive efforts that were done by certain governments and institutions and within respective markets. I would like just to mention here on a positive note the new law on payment systems and payment services that was adopted in North Macedonia, that is basically enabling open banking, that is gonna minimize the charges that the banks implied, that is gonna open a whole new field for fintech and new financial institutions that were previously discussed. Now going into the growth plan, which is a great news, and it gives a source of, let's say, new wave of optimism for the region, and of course, because we are discussing trade and e-commerce, especially for e-commerce. I think that it's been, I was trying to recall when the digital single market strategy was established, and it's been almost a decade, or basically more than 8 years. And I would say that we as region, especially we now as representing the e-commerce business community, have been aspiring to the digital single market since it was established. And I think that this EU growth plan, if we say how it's going to impact, why it's so important, how it's going to accelerate, how I see it, let's say if we speak a bit metaphorically, I see all these obstacles that we are discussing, regardless either within the Western Balkans or between EU and Western Balkans, as if I speak metaphorically, I see them as one very big rock that is standing there on a cliff. The rock has been there for many years, and it's so heavy to move. And this is representing all the barriers and obstacles and reforms that are needed. That on one hand, countries are not so brave or willing to push this rock on their own, and on the other hand, they cannot do it on their own. So joint efforts are needed so that that strategy is designed to start this rock rolling, right? And of course, this 6 million euro with the growth plan should provide a certain boost for motivation, especially when it's backed up with support from the EU, so that when our effort is done, when it's successful, when this rock is pushed, when there is a reform implemented, there is a reward, which is payment from the reform and a growth facility budget or fund for the Western Balkans. So I think that this is tremendously positive news. We as countries should aim to come closer to the EU. We have been discussing, that North Macedonia had a pretty challenging, let's say, path with many rocks when we speak about EU accession. And we have been always speaking within the country that regardless when we enter, when we have the EU digital market, we need to work and to do the homework regardless of how fast this will happen, because at the end of the day, we are doing it for our own. So I think that we need to work separately in our countries, but as well jointly. And now with the growth plan, there is, I would say, less room for excuse, as the potential is, it holds, as I said, extraordinary. In terms of where I see what obstacles to be removed or how I see the picture in a few years, I envisage this Western Balkan region as one integrated market with great e-commerce potential, much more prepared for connecting with the EU. I see all markets, let's say, if not shoulder to shoulder to the developed European markets, at least to be ranked in the middle when it comes to e-commerce in all these charts where we are comparing Western Balkans with Europe, with the European countries. We are now in most of the charts ranked at the bottom, I would say. And for the end, I really hope that we will start dealing with a bit more sophisticated challenges, because wherever we go, there will be challenges. But the point is at least to overcome some of it over the years, and to deal with new ones and a bit more sophisticated ones that we are discussing now. The urgent ones, of course, is the delivery, the unified rules that are needed. The payments were discussed. So I think that we are all aware of the obstacles and of these 7 priority areas that are mapped in the EU growth plan. So I think that they're all connected and related to e-commerce development, and I hope that we will see progress much faster now with the growth plan in place. So I wouldn't like to take much more time, and yeah, as long as I want to stay till the end of the panel, I think that my flight is boarding. So in case I cannot stay until the end, I am sorry. And if there are any questions directed to me, of course, my contact, I think, it will be there in the agenda. So please feel free to reach out.
Thank you very much, Nina. Thank you for actually reminding me that there are questions, which I never mentioned in the beginning. So all people who are online, or you in the room, but you need to join online, send me the questions through Zoom. And if we have time at the end, we'll go back to them and quickly try to answer them. And yes, Nina, you're of course excused if your plane is boarding, and we'll let you know the questions and facilitate communications later. Now going back to you, Marcela, so with basically the same question, new growth plan is out, and even from the first speech of President von der Leyen, we knew that e-commerce will play a role there, but we are yet to see what concretely is behind these words. This is what we will do in 2024. But now we are still in 2023, and we can let our imagination go wild. And tell me, what would you like to see actually being implemented behind this simpler priority of access to EU single market on e-commerce?
Yeah, so EU growth plan is something new for all of us. Which is a good and welcoming plan. Nevertheless, the digital market does not know borders, as we all know, and why I believe that providing access to EU digital market should be the easiest. I am happy that the Commission has singled electronic commerce, parcel delivery, and geo-blocking, which is based on our work during the CEFTA expert groups. We have elaborated this through meetings. So shortly, maybe I have some ideas, but as I have said, in terms of consumer protection, we have aligned the legislation in force. However, this is not all. The EU has built structure to promote cross-border consumer protection, which facilitates access to support mechanisms regardless of the physical, cultural, and language distance. And the same example, I think, should follow same in the CEFTA parties. But in the other hand, consumers are not left alone, so they have support. And for example, geo-blocking geo-blocking rules are very interesting topics. In EU are forced through the network of European consumer centers. We do not have that in CEFTA, and that I think Europe can open access of this network for us. This would boost impact for what we do overall in the area of electronic commerce. Now that I mentioned geo-blocking, and if I can elaborate, European consumers have the right to access all the websites and all goods and services offered on the EU market if they want. So, for example, I'm from Kosovo. And if I want to buy something on the website of Montenegro, I can be blocked or diverted because of my nationality, address, or IP address. So the next step would be for this discrimination to be abolished when I browse and shop online in the region, but also in the EU. When it comes to business side of electronic commerce, I expect that EU to find a way to offer the common market principle to the online companies in the Balkans. This would facilitate significantly their growth. Young and innovative companies need space to grow. For example, as Kosovo is has the youngest population in Europe, and technology is growing up so fast. Also, we know that CEFTA has a 20 million consumer market, and it is a good first step. But if they really want to make this strong economy that is able to cope with competitive pressure in the EU, we need them to give the chance to enter into the European League without physically moving into the EU. That would be one example. And as far as I remember from Libre Foundation recommendations, when we were working with them, there were some examples provided in the choice of cases given by European courts during the provision of trainings and expression of readiness for the provision of advisory, professional support, and I think is in impetus for pushing forward the integration process. In addition to business and consumers, even though I have mentioned several times, but I think it is crucial, there is also administrative one. This is from the one where my colleagues and partners are able to join to the European networks in order to learn from them. To be honest, in my opinion, the EU regulation is complex because in the member states they have to directly affect and by regulation they need to implement them by acts. But for us, they are complex. There are so many questions. In this term, I would commend and thank Ms. GIZ team and Ms. Aida Beitola, who has helped us a lot in this regard. So as we have discussed yesterday in Parcel Delivery Expert Group meeting, it is a need to join in EU by following these administrative procedures or phases first, but also learn from other countries' best practices. And as RCC's Ms. Castrati mentioned before, the common regional market next year it is the third year, I guess, that it is going to be wrapped up. And we can just go on and implement these measures that comes from this common regional market. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcela. Yes, this is the two sides of the same coin: the access to digital market and the common regional market. And besides the e-commerce, also explicitly is mentioned the area of parcel delivery. So Gaz made the same question to you. What do you expect to actually get from access to your single market when it comes to parcel delivery?
Okay, Zdravko. Taking into consideration that internet has no borders, and this is a very good opportunity for all businesses, governments, citizens, for each party. This is the opportunity from parties to benefit from it. I will treat it in the three levels, let's say, the work that in each level we should do, especially when we say in CEFTA parties. First, we have to prepare and designate the regulatory framework in the national level. So in order to have for our national citizens, the legal basis, the procedures, the information for the citizens, the information for businesses, what we are offering to them, and to remove the obstacles and to give them access to bigger markets, let's call it. So first, in the national level, it's not easy, it's difficult, because there are many factors and many institutions who have to, let's say, in parallel working in their own works, but again, they have to coordinate with each other, which is not very easy. So we have to do our work in the parcel delivery legislation. We have to do our work in internet connections. So we have to have internet access in every part, in our case, in our territory, so people and businesses to be able to access such services. If we do not provide to them access to internet, then we have done nothing to the other part. We do the rules just for to have them. The customs have to improve and to remove the obstacles. Also the banks, as the colleague before was mentioning too, considering that the prices in the region are very high, so the bank and the financial sector has to work in order to decrease it, to create the possibility to decrease such tariffs. We, as a regulator in postal services, we have to make transparent our tariffs and our operators, in order that citizens and businesses to see and to compare and to benefit, to go to the lower prices and to better services in order to benefit. So this is the first level in the national level. Then we go into regional level in CEFTA parties, as we are here. I will focus more on parcel deliveries, since I am part of this working group. And I mentioned before that we have started a very good job by creating the basis for publishing the information and preparing some reports on tariffs for parcel deliveries in the region, and also to assess these tariffs. So it is it's the right time that all parties to start exercising, to start publishing, and to start comparing the tariffs within the region. So the second level is the regional level, which I invite all parties to start publishing the information, collecting the data first from the operators who fall under the criteria as the same as in the EU Regulation 2018-644. So even if there is no transposition of that directive in their respective national legislation, but again, we are able in our legislations of postal services to collect data, so they can start doing some collections of data in this regard and start preparing the reports. And with the support of GIS and CEFTA, of course, we can cooperate and increase our level of expertise. So this is the second level of our cooperation. And the third level, we all together as CEFTA parties, if we do this our own home net work, we can knock on the EU door. And the growth plan is a very, very important news and very significant news, and the possibility for us to access for funds from EU parties. So, but we have to do our own networks, and then after we create this we fulfill the second level of regional market, we can go to EU and ask for them access also in case of parcel delivery in their systems, networks, in order to benefit from practices and from the possibilities they have and the experiences they have in this case. So we have to go towards them hopefully in the near future. So I invite again all CEFTA parties, regulators and policymakers responsible for postal sector to start doing something in our case, and then in order to benefit from the opportunities that the growth plan has to offer to our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kazimir. I think also it's worth mentioning perhaps just a little anecdote from one of our meetings. We're actually met our colleagues from the EU who told us, who did the assessments, found the tariffs that were too high and then actually do something about it. So the system works. We just need to, yes, get on that train. I think that's a very good news. Now we go to the flip side of the story of the parcel delivery, the customs. Customs also is featuring quite strongly in the EU growth plan. So Tatiana, can you tell me what mechanisms would you like to see in place between the CEFTA parties and the EU, which would facilitate this movement of parcels?
Obzirom da je cilj svih carinskih službi CEFTA ugovornih strana da uspostavi procedure i da ispuni uslove za pristupanje svojih država Evropskoj uniji, naravno treba da nastavimo dalje da jačamo tu saradnju naših službi u okviru CEFTA ugovornih strana i da omogućimo legalnim tokovima robe da što pre dođu do svojih odredišta, a istovremeno da se onemoguće nelegalne aktivnosti. Bez obzira da li govorimo o e-trgovini ili drugom nekom obliku trgovine, svakako se roba transportuje, prelazi preko granica i potrebno je omogućiti brži prelazak robe preko graničnih prelaza, jer se tu najviše vreme gubi na čekanju robe na carinske procedure na graničnim prelazima, kao i procedure drugih službi koje se nalaze takođe pored carine na graničnim prelazima. Ono što Carinska služba Crne Gore trenutno radi je priprema se za primjenu aplikacije za novi tranzitni sistem od kraja februara sledeće godine, koji će biti kompatibilan sa novim kompjuterizovanim tranzitnim sistemom, najnovijom fazom 5, za koju je specifikaciju izradila Evropska komisija. Od kraja februara planiramo da tu aplikaciju za tranzitne postupke koristimo na nacionalnom nivou, a to je uslov da Crna Gora, jedan od uslova da Crna Gora pristupi Konvenciji o zajedničkom tranzitnom postupku. Nakon pristupanja Crne Gore ovoj konvenciji, koju su već potpisale znači, sve države članice Evropske unije, EFTA, ugovorne strane, kao i Srbija i Makedonija, Ukrajina, Turska, Ujedinjeno Kraljevstvo, time ćemo omogućiti i privrednicima i našim, a i drugim koji dopremaju robu do Crne Gore, da na mnogo jednostavniji i brži način prelaze preko graničnih prelaza, jer će ta jednom elektronski podneta deklaracija u nekoj od država članica konvencije biti vidljiva i validna u svim državama članicama konvencije kroz koje ta roba prolazi, kao i u državi gde je krajnje odredište te robe. Kako bismo uspostavili i omogućili privrednicima iz Crne Gore da uživaju benefite i van granica Crne Gore, uspostavili smo program ovlašćenih privrednih subjekata, AEO program, u skladu sa programima AEO u Evropskoj uniji, kao i u skladu sa CEFTA sporazumom i dodatnim protokolom. Uspešno smo završili pilot validaciju pre 2 meseca u Crnoj Gori i na osnovu toga krajem oktobra smo podneli zahtev CEFTA sekretarijatu da se validira taj naš program za ovlašćene privredne subjekte, kako bi naši privrednici koji uživaju poverenje, znači to je jedan najviši stepen poverenja koje država može da ima u nekog privrednog subjekta, uživali benefite i u CEFTA ugovornim stranama, a takođe i njihovi kod nas, i naravno da istovremeno radimo na proširivanju tih benefita i u našoj zemlji na nacionalnom nivou, kako bi uredne privrednike, kako bi animirali uredne privrednike da se prijave za ovaj status i kako bi u svim vidovima njihovog poslovanja imali neki siguran lanac bezbednosti kako za nas, a tako i za njihov dalji razvoj. Tako da u svakom slučaju planiramo dalju saradnju sa carinskim službama u okviru CEFTA ugovornih strana, posebno što sve imamo isti cilj uz ograničene i kadrovske kapacitete i ograničena budžetska sredstva, što je karakteristično za region, a opet imamo volje i želimo da što pre unapredimo naše poslovanje i da to bude usaglašeno kako u regionu, a tako i sa državama članicama Evropske unije.
Thank you very much, Tatiana, now going back to payments with basically the same question. I mean, payments and this accession to the single euro payment area has a priority of its own. And you, Mattia, can you tell us how is that relevant to what we'll be discussing today?
Sure, thank you, Zdravko. No, as you said, the new growth plan has a leg on its own on the SEPA, and that's extremely useful, especially for the economies in the region, because it gives also the sign of importance and the sign of visibility of this particular issue. I think that what matters a lot is that entry to SEPA is bringing a lot of work for the economy itself, but it also brings a lot of benefits. And let me highlight those benefits more. You mentioned in your sentences before these benefits, these numbers, right? The calculations that the bank has done. And let me give you a quick rundown on all of this, which is that our businesses within the region are paying 6 times more to send a transfer of money to money within the Western Balkans region compared to the Austrians sending money to the German. This is unacceptable, right? From various points of view, but also from the EU perspective point of view, it's not good. And SEPA will actually make this nivelized. It will create the level playing field of the business in Montenegro sending to Albanian business, the same as business in Austria sending money to the Belgian business. The next one is on people, right? The sending of remittances, the sending of money from Germany, Austria, Belgium, right, to the Western Balkans. We calculated that around the entry to SEPA combined with the domestic systems can bring savings of around €500 million for the region. This is huge, knowing that we know that there is a 12 billion pool of money going in the Western Balkans countries. It's a quite substantive number, and it will bring much more safety, if you wish, from that perspective, but also cost efficiency gains for the people of the region. The next benefit that we saw if we go to if we enter SEPA as in due time is the reduction of informality, the grey economy, right? So if you digitalize your payments, if you 10% of digitalizing your payments brings you 2% of decrease of the informal economy. Now, knowing where we are, right, and I'm probably biased, right, because I come from the region and we are high on the informal economy, that also brings a lot of benefits, not only for us, but also for the authorities and the public sector in general, but also the economy functioning. And the last one is inclusion. I mean, we don't talk a lot about that, but and because probably the numbers are high, right? When somebody tells you that there is approximately 76-80% of people with a financial account, with the transaction account open, you say, okay, that's fine. I mean, it's not that bad, right? But when I tell you that within the European Union, this is 99%, then there is a question mark, right? Okay, why are we on the 76% and not on the something that at least starts with the number 9, right? In the double-digit number. And this also, this digitalization of payments, the instant payments, the removing of the proximity barriers and actually facilitating these transfers will actually bring to the Western Balkans region around 2 million people in being financially included, right, in the system. That's a big deal, right? That's a big deal because that's something you can't do e-commerce if you don't have an account, right? So you clearly need inclusion on that side, and that's one of the things that we are also working on with the authorities. There is a lot to do, right? The SEPA is a respectable, is a good goal to have, and I really commend the European Commission for including it as a one self-standing priorities, if you wish, within the new growth plan. But it's a challenging objective, right? Because as I told you, there are several legislation that takes several years in order to do that. Luckily, we are already at the end of that process of the legislation, and some of the economies are literally there, right? Are literally ready to do this in the next 6 months. Let me on the right side, Montenegro is one of them. Montenegro is clearly the closest country that can actually reap the benefits of both SEPA and the digitalization of payments. So I think that that's something that we should be proud of, right? And that's something that we should definitely highlight as success. Some others are not yet there, but the work. But at least what we can see from the World Bank perspective is the willingness of those to actually push, because they also see those benefits that I have mentioned, and they also see that it's not, well, if you talk to the politicians, it's not only about economic stocks, but it's also about politics, right? Because these are also political messages that one could easily spell out and try to move the needle. So I think that that's something that I would highlight on the SEPA angle. By the way, the SEPA angle is a critical angle for the cross-border payments. But that, if you don't, what I call clean your house first, right, or set your house internally first, the SEPA benefit will not be much, because SEPA only allows you to remain at the same level playing field as what you have home, right? So if I pay home 20, SEPA allows me that no more than 20 shall be paid between home and Greece or Belgium. So it's a very nice European mechanism that actually creates the single market, right? In this case, what I feel that the future lies on is getting more benefits of the single market. And the new growth plan actually spells that out very nicely, right? In a way that it gives the opportunities to the candidates, potential candidates, and all of those. It gives you actually, the European Union gives already, it's more than a hint. It already gives you a way or a path what to do and how do you gain benefits of that internal market. We are working together with the European Commission, but also with all the stakeholders in this agenda to see what else can we do, right? What else can we do in the, how do you call that, CRM 2.0 and onwards, right? In order to take into account the new growth plan and the new ambition of the European Union. I think one of the things that we probably I can highlight is this. Further recognition or benefits of, or giving gains of the internal single market to the Western Balkans before they actually come into the European Union. I think that's one of the key issues that I think, from my perspective, would be quite useful to basically show what type of benefits or what benefits are there when these countries join in, and I think that's a powerful tool. Also, both from the European Union side, but also to demonstrate to the people, to the society in the Western Balkans, what's out there, what's waiting for them if you stay on course, right, on this. Now, I know the course is a long course, but it's a course. But I think that the more we show to the people that the benefits that are out there, and that those benefits can be reaped now, the more I think the successful we will be. And there is plenty to do. I'll give you the two examples that I spoke about in my first round. So one of the things if you remember, one of the things I mentioned are these QR codes and payment of the QR code. So the idea is that, yes, I want my, let's say, Bosnian friend to be able to pay when it goes to to my Albanian friend to the coast, or Montenegro, sorry, we're in Montenegro, let's go to the Montenegro coast, to pay by QR code. But I also want then, and that's the single market benefits, that now I'll be biased, when my Bosnian friend goes to the Croatian coast, that he or she is able to buy on the QR code as well there. That's the link of the Western Balkans with the European Union, or bringing those benefits there. The same is with, for instance, the PSPs that I was mentioning, the payment system providers or the banks, at least in the payment side. This licensing, so can we consider licensing at the European level that works also in the Western Balkans? Are there paths to be done on that side as well? Can't we get those big players in the market? Do those big players need to be registered and licensed in the market, or can we recognize it? Those that are in Luxembourg or those that are in I don't know Tallinn or all of that. I'm done. Oh, okay. So I think those are the things that we would push forward and that we would push next. But I think and I'll finish with that. We've gone, as you probably know, the World Bank goes a lot to the countries and it has a lot of meetings on the ground. So with whoever we spoke to, be it the central bank, the agency for banking, the regulator, the non-regulator, the private banks, the non-private banks, all of them know about the new growth plan, which is already a success, right? The message is already out there, and all of them understand, at least in my area of business, that there is a SEPA thing, that there is a SEPA objective, that this is something that they push. They already understand how should they approach the new growth plan, what are the reforms that they need to put in the action plan. So the message is out there. The message is quite strong, and I feel very confident that we will be able to push the ball even further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthias. So just to summarize quickly, because I see that we ran out of time. Luckily, we don't have any questions. So we can say that to kind of merge the Gazmis and Matthias metaphor, that our work that starts always as a homework, progresses as regional work, and then ends basically as European work, is all the same work, which hopefully now we have all the mechanisms to reap the benefits on all levels. Whether that is taming the prices in parcel delivery, taming the prices in payments, or enjoying the fact that we are a company or a consumer who has the same rights, same obligations, not in one market, but 7 or 35, and as well can cross basically the procedures, such as customs procedures, very quickly and efficiently, perhaps maybe even in 1 hour after the arrival. And this is not only within the region, but also between the region and the EU. And I think this is a very good message, and this seems like a very good promise to all these businesses and consumers we're talking about. Thank you very much for being panelists today.